Hi, my name is Daryl Del Hussein. I'm president of Phoenix Seminary. And it's a great privilege to be able to come and be able to share this information with you. What I want to do is I want to walk you through the 7 distinctive characteristics of servant leadership. This is leadership that is patterned by the very model of Jesus Christ himself. I've read that 85% of managerial failures have to do with, quote, the ineptness in dealing with people. That's why John D. Rockefeller even said that he would pay more money for the ability to deal with people than anything else under the sun. And so I want to first define what leadership is before we get into these characteristics. Because you could read 350 different books on leadership and you will find 350 different definitions. There's been a real thrust that everybody wants to be a leader. It reminds me of the story of the young lady that applied for a local university, and when she came to the question on the application on, are you a leader? Well, she was a little bit intimidated by that, and so she was very honest and said, no, I'm really more of a follower. Well, after they processed her application, she received an acceptance letter probably before anyone else because they were so delighted. Because they said, we have 3,000 leaders, and we're looking for one to be at least a follower. And so we sometimes get all caught up with this leadership, and then we define it in many different ways. But in reality, if you just put it down to one word, leadership is nothing more than influence. It comes down to how does one human being influence another human being? So good leadership is how does one human being influence someone else to do something that is good, healthy. Bad leadership is how does one human being influence another human being to do that which is evil or that which is bad. So when it comes down, if we begin to understand that leadership really comes down to this issue of influence, then your leadership style is going to have more to do with your personality. I mean, I've seen leaders with styles all the way from Attila the Hun to Captain Kangaroo. But my hope is that you will be able to, once you understand these distinctives that actually pattern after what Jesus Christ called leadership and who influenced more than he did, then you'll be able to shape your own leadership style in more conformity to that of Jesus Christ. So let's begin with the first of the 7 distinctives, and that is this issue of power. Now, Tony Campolo has written a book called The Power Delusion, where he talks about this whole issue of power and influence. Matter of fact, he defines power as basically being able to determine what happens. Or others would say, yielding the will of others to your own. Well, that has to do with controlling people. And that's more of the perversion of power, is when it's all about serve me, carry out my will. Those are more like we'll talk about later, visions of self-divinity. When in reality, the word that we translate from the New Testament power is the word dunamis, like dynamite, like dynamic. And this word used 118 times in the New Testament, all it really means is to have a capacity to carry out something so that it influences someone else. It really is the power of possessing the power of influence. And so now the question you got to ask yourself is then what is it about me that's going to influence someone else? The answer is very simple. What is it about you that somebody else would want? Whether that be something about you that they want to imitate, something that you know that they would like to know, or something that you can do and provide success for them. The fact is, your power, your ability to influence others, all comes down to what is it about you have to offer. Now, no, you didn't pick your parents, but God did. And it has to do with the fact that, as Psalm 139 says, God was weaving you in your mother's womb. God has been in control of the way you were raised, the experiences you had, the experience you did not have. It's all one big package. And I believe that's what the Apostle Paul is talking about in Romans 12 when he talks about we're one body, but we're many different parts. And that God has given each one of us, remember in verse 3 of Romans 12, a measure of faith. Then he gives a list of these charismata, these particular gifts. Remember, charismata, charis, is the word grace. These are grace-given gifts that the Spirit of God gives us based on our uniqueness of who we are and what we have to offer. And in other words, what are we going to possess that's going to influence the lives of others? So as Paul goes ahead and talks about there's a gift of leadership and encouragement and teaching, and he lists a whole 7 there. And then Paul talks about, some 14 others in his writings. But it really comes down to the fact that if you want to know the essence of your power, how is it that God's going to use you to influence others? The best way is simply ask. Ask people who know you. People who are intimately acquainted with your personality, your history, and what you're all about. And then just ask them the very simple question. How does God use me in your life? What is it about me that you feel I have to offer? Is it some knowledge I've accumulated? If it's some ability that you want to emulate? Is it some responsibility I have that can open up doors for you? But until you can identify what it is about you that you have to offer that other people would desire to have and it would benefit them in some way, you'll never know your power. And until you can identify what your power, what you have to offer, you will not be able to lead because you don't know what you're going to be influencing. You may imitate other leaders, but you'll never be an authentic leader using the dunamis that God has given you. As God has absolute power to accomplish anything He wants, and we actually want whatever God has to offer, that's His power to us. But He's given dunamis power to those that He's created to be able to influence others. So, if you want to know this issue of power, it's really where all leadership begins. So start by simply asking those who know you well, what is it about me that you feel I have to offer others? And in finding an answer to that question, you're going to discover the real issue of your power and your leadership begins.